I have a confession to make, and it's been boiling up inside me since Raph, you asked us to do this. And this might be a pretty decent segue into our topic today. Prior, or rather, since I'm okay. My word choice here is poor. Aside from the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, the shitty one where he like finds ancient aliens or whatever the hell is going on in that movie.
Mhm.
Uh, I have never seen an Indiana Jones film.
What? You serious?
Yes, this is the first time that I have seen Indiana Jones and the
How
Raiders
is?
of the Lost Ark. I have not seen Temple of Doom. I have not seen
Well,
Last
they're
Crusade.
fucking great. You should watch those. But
I probably will.
That's an amazing admission.
good on you
Yeah.
for taking that on. And also, unbelievable that I never picked up. I feel like I've made references about this to you over the past decade plus that you have managed to pass off.
Well,
Well, wait, let's do a
well,
little peek
no, no.
behind the let's do a peek behind the curtain, so and like let listeners in on part of the joke. You guys have been like best friends for 15 years,
That's,
and
Yeah, yes.
Sean, as long as I've known you, I've always known you to be a Harrison Ford fan, so I assume an Indiana Jones fan. And
absolutely.
the fact that you're just now learning
We'll,
that your best
we'll talk.
friend has not seen any Indiana Jones movies is
I'm
amazing.
jumping ahead a little bit here, but something I realized upon rewatching this movie is that the scene in Marion's bar in Nepal where she's having the drinking contest with the guy, I watched this movie so
Mhm.
young that I fully did not understand what was going on in that scene. Like, I did not know. I learned the word whiskey from this movie.
Oh shit.
So this is like a core part of my movie watching
Yeah.
and loving experience was seeing this at such an early age. I can't fathom that you hadn't seen any of these till now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess I would
It
like.
makes so much sense because the only one you saw was Kingdom of the fucking Crystal Skull.
Yeah, so I just never. I was like, oh, they're all like this.
That admission really does
Yeah.
make this whole exercise totally worth it. I'm like I was thrilled to have you guys on and to talk about this movie, but now knowing that you had never seen it or any of the Indiana Jones, like
I
Yeah.
honestly have not talked to somebody who's doing a fully fresh watch of Raiders of the Lost Ark in so long, so this is fascinating.
Dude.
what,
Yes, somebody who's never seen it and is watching it in 2023. What that's like.
your text makes
Yeah.
so much more sense now.
You were like,
What was my
I
text?
haven't rewatched it.
Oh
No, you
yeah.
said I guess while you were rewatching it, you were like, this guy's just a professor and he's kicking the shit out of Nazis with a whip. And you're like, I was like, yeah, that's the movie. That's all of Raiders of the Lost Ark, and it makes sense that was you learning it for the first time.
Yeah. Yeah, it was interesting. It was okay. So what was interesting about watching this to me, and it makes a lot of sense considering that like George Lucas was one of the ones who came up with the story, and Lawrence Kasdan wrote the screenplay, and he also wrote Empire Strikes Back. So it was really interesting how they were just like, oh, what if we just like make a movie about Han Solo, but he's just a guy on Earth,
We just
Yeah.
and just cast Harrison again. Just
had
cast
all of
Harrison
George
again.
Lucas's weird like creatures and replace them with.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah, right. Instead of Jar Jar Binks and Glub Shido, it's the ghost of Jews killing Nazis.
How bad would this movie have been if George Lucas directed it instead of Spielberg?
yeah, no. You need
Awful.
look no further. While I think Lucas did definitely bring things to the tables in these movies, having Spielberg at the head of it really kept Lucas's worst impulses in check, and Crystal Skull is the that you can see it in that movie, because in that one, George Lucas was like, I want full creative control. I want to do my Indiana Jones movie. And they were like, okay. And he was like, so what are we going to do? And he was like, fucking Indiana. And it's like, okay, George, God damn it.
Well, that's why I was so. I think after we saw The Kingdom of the Crystal Skull in theaters, I asked you, I was like, are they? They're all like. I think I said to you, I was like, this is the first one that's had like science fiction in it, right? And I think you said
Well,
no. And I was like,
there's always an element of the occult, or
sure.
Temple of Doom. There's definitely some magic, and there's some crazy shit, and
right.
This has
it was so. I don't want to jump to the end of the movie, but it was so. As someone who hadn't seen it, it was so amazing how it was just like grounded as just like a treasure hunting movie, and then literally ghosts come out and start melting
I'm particularly partial to the fact that I watched on Disney Plus, and at the beginning it gives you the content warning, and it said, warning, depictions of tobacco use. I was like,
oh yeah, that's right.
That's it.
Not a series of the most gruesome deaths ever shown on 5 in this movie that I'm just like, oh god.
It's rated PG, right?
It's just PG.
That is ridiculous.
The 80s were wild,
loose
man.
With the ratings back in the early 90s or 80s, whenever the fuck this movie came out. When did this movie? Was this
1981?
I think it's early 80s.
So this is
81.
Before or after Empire Strikes Back?
That's a good question.
It's right after.
Because something, again, I'm jumping ahead here, but doing a very close watch of this movie, I noticed certain sound effects that had been used in Empire Strikes Back that are used in this movie.
Just like dudes screaming,
not even
henchmen
like,
falling, or
there's stuff from when Han Solo is frozen in carbonite, that like the sound effects in that room that are reused when the arc is opened, and like all the generators are like overcharging and stuff. There's certain, it's very subtle, and I think only a psychopath would be sitting there like, was that in Empire Strikes Back? But
yeah, how did you pick up on that?
I've watched these movies so many times, man.
But you're totally right, because like John Williams, the hack, is like clearly reusing the Han and Leia theme from Empire.
Yeah, I have that in my notes. I think it's time that we call this guy out. He's a massive
Is
hack.
this John Williams' best script? I would personally rank the Indiana Jones and Raiders in particular above Star Wars, which may be a controversial opinion, but I mean, in terms of instant recognizability, the Indiana,
I think it's Star Wars. I think
Star Wars definitely is like the more popular one, but on my personal rankings, I have this one higher.
We had this discussion 2 weeks ago in a Rocky episode about music cues that are just like fully tied to whatever movie, and you, no matter where you hear it, you instantly have an image of the movie. And for me, it was Star Wars, Jaws, and Gonna Fly Now from Rocky as my top 3. But rewatching Raiders, I think this scores right there at number 4. And 3 out of those 4 are John Williams. But he's still a hack.
I think in terms of his work, I think Schindler's List is his most iconic.
Most iconic, too.
Schindler's List 2, yeah.
2 Schindler, 2 List. Having you guys on was a bad idea.
Yeah, 100%. In all sincerity, I don't think you can deny Jaws.
We're like in, and we already dropped a 2 Schindler 2 list. That's a tough. Can only go up from here.
Schindler 5.
Dude, make it a crossover, man. Indiana Jones and the List of Schindler or some shit.
Imagine if Harrison Ford played Schindler. Oh my god.
Um,
This one.
Yeah, why not? Why not? Dude, Hollywood is creatively bankrupt these days. They would honestly, someone would go for this.
All right. Speaking of Hollywood being creatively bankrupt, I know we've gotten into the movie a little bit, but I think an interesting place to start would be let's just talk about your guys' level of interest for the new Indiana Jones, because it is releasing in theaters in a few weeks. So it kind of makes sense for us to, be talking about this movie at this time in history, getting ready for the new one. But I personally am so completely out on the new Indiana Jones movie. I have no faith in James Mangold to make anything more than a severely mediocre movie. And because, it just seems like it's Disney dollars, going for a cash grab, I have zero faith. So I don't know where you guys land on that spectrum.
I am. I would say expectations are probably right along there with you. My hope is probably a little higher than yours. I'm not expecting, Raiders or Last Crusade, like any of the original anything remotely near the quality of the original three. But it simply can't be worse than Crystal Skull. Like, I was so offended by Crystal Skull.
I haven't seen Crystal Skull since its original
There's
theater run, and I kind of want to revisit. Is it still that bad?
It's really bad, man. There's a scene in which Shia LaBeouf starts swinging through the jungle with a bunch of bad CGI monkeys, like over a car chase, and it's just tough to make it through. But
Was that one Spielberg?
it was Spielberg, but George
Yes.
Lucas had full creative control.
Okay.
I think.
So it was essentially
I didn't actually
the
look
Star
anything up, so
Wars prequel
I'm going to
trilogy.
speak like I have a lot of authority on things and spread misinformation.
That's fine.
Do that. Yeah, that's okay.
But yeah, so I'm hoping it's at least a little bit better. Like, Crystal Skull opened up bad, and like I saw a tweet about it recently. Somebody I follow was saying, like, everybody was so excited, Indiana Jones is back, and as soon as the bad CGI gophers came on the screen and he survived a nuclear blast by getting into a refrigerator and getting thrown 3 miles inside of it and then just like stands up, everybody, like, a hush fell on the audience. Everybody was just like, oh god, what are we watching? But so I just can't fathom it could be that bad again, especially with the reception it got. But you never know. But I also think Harrison Ford cares so much about the character. It's so starkly different than how he approaches Star Wars. Like, he very visibly does not give a fuck about Star Wars.
He's wanted to die in Star Wars since
And
Empire.
he's like fully on board with doing an India. He was like, I'm excited about this. And I was like, oh shit, Harrison's excited about something that's not crashing a plane into a golf course. Like, nice change of pace. How about you, Mike?
Am I excited about Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny? No, I have no intention of going to see it. I couldn't care less.
Okay, that's
but
kind of what I expected.
Yeah, I agree with Sean though. I don't think it will be as bad as the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Just fucking can't.
But you can just tell what kind of movie it's going to be because half the shots in the trailer are de-aged Harrison Ford. Mm-hmm. So it's like, well, maybe don't make the movie then.
And I do, as a general rule, the whole de-aging thing I'm very out on. But this one ranks pretty low on my list of offensive CGI, like, animated people showing up in movies, because Harrison Ford was like involved in it and all in on it. And when people were like discussing this, he's like, I don't know what the fuck you want. That's what I look like. It's much like when they.
Is there an argument to be made though that Crystal Skull or whatever it's called is like so bad that it's good? kind of enjoyable, and
I
that this
don't
one
think
is
so.
just going to be like Mangold he's as a director, he's really good at making movies that are fine, and he has like a really high floor but a really low ceiling. So I feel like this movie is just going to be
Right.
whatever.
I think,
whereas it doesn't have the potential to be so bad that it turns into like a tongue-in-cheek, we actually love this movie, and Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny doesn't get the love that it deserves. That corner of the internet popping up in 5-10 years, like maybe Crystal Skull is better because of that and how bad it is.
You know what? I actually, because of this conversation just now, I actually like Raiders of the Lost Ark less because of this conversation, because I just remembered that Indiana Jones and Marion Ravenwood's son is Shia LaBeouf. Like, I'm gonna have to think about that when I watch Raiders. Like,
Yeah.
I forgot.
Is he coming back in 5?
No. Shia's
They
done.
do. The movie ends
He's,
on a big thing where the wind blows a door open and Shia LaBeouf picks up Indiana Jones's hat and starts to put it on, and then Harrison Ford like snags it from him and like, oh, not today. And that's how the movie ends, and nobody was happy. Nobody was happy.
Maybe 5 will be great if it opens up with Shia LaBeouf's character's funeral.
With his character's name is Mutt.
What's his name?
Yeah.
If we open up with Mutt's
Mutt
funeral, I will laugh so hard that I will give the movie 5 stars.
Immediately in. Okay.
Yeah.
What's up? What you got?
No, but his daughter is in the movie. The new one,
no, it's
right?
not his daughter. It's like his goddaughter or somebody's. I don't know. I forget what the.
That's acting. It's acting.
Something.
They're not related.
Yeah. You know how that.
I mean, I'm not going to see it. I don't care. I don't know why I'm asking. I don't care. But anyways, right.
All right. So one of the reasons I wanted to have you dudes on to talk about this movie is because, like I said, y'all are good friends and have been friends for a while. You guys went to high school together. You did some acting together in high school, and in my eyes, I don't think I've ever seen any duo execute a stunt punch the way that you two guys have. And Harrison Ford is famously the best punch thrower in the history of movies. Can you guys confirm? And can you guys just tell us a little bit about how you both got so good at stunt punching?
We did.
Can you do a demonstration for us?
Theater?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we got really good at stunt punching by practicing by doing the real thing.
Yeah, I'm pretty good. You learn the ropes.
Just over and over.
A lot of black eyes.
Yeah. I think Harrison is excellent at on-screen combat. I don't know how much he is these days. He might, pull something or break something. But he was really good. Like his fight scene with I almost said Ryan Reynolds, Ryan Gosling in Blade Runner. He was like in his 70s then too, and he was like, he was great. He was like, in terms of Sean and I, how did we get good at stage combat? When we were in high school, we had a combat choreographer by the name of David Brimmer, who's done stage combat for tons and tons and tons of shows. And he was just great. And anytime he did stuff for our shows, we picked up on it very quickly. And yeah. And then, it became a hobby of ours to do it in front of people.
It's a great
He
party
taught
trick.
us the stuff, and then immediately we were like, what's the least responsible way we could use this knowledge? And top of the list was by almost starting bar fights every time. We have almost caused like multiple bar fights.
Like Nepal style bar shootouts.
Yeah. We were in this bar in Manhattan many, many years ago, And I looked at Sean and I was like, "Do it!" And then he pretended to headbutt me, and I held my nose. And our buddy Sean Welsh Brown of S1E11 podcast was like, "Oh, what the hell? Oh my god!" And then when he found out it was a joke and you didn't actually headbutt me, he was so mad because he thought legitimately that you headbutted me.
Yeah, we've gotten a few people that way. But Harrison's one thing you mentioned, his combat in this movie. One of the things I wrote down is the punch noise in this movie. Going back to the sound design in this, is one of the most iconic. Like when I think of a punch in movies, that's the sound I hear. Like it's very unique in this movie. That's sort of like
yeah. What's his best punch that he throws in this movie?
Let me see. I'm tempted to say something from. It's not even a punch he throws; it's him getting punched. But the fight with the Nazi,
the
Nazi
shirtless
meathead,
guy, right?
when he kicks the guy, and then the guy punches him once in the face, and his like knees buckle, and then he falls over. It's just such a funny, great action beat. I absolutely love Harrison Ford's performance in this. If I had not stated so already, I am a huge fan of this movie. I told you guys, but I specifically watched this movie on this go around, on this rewatch, because I could sit here and talk about the things I like about this movie forever. I think it's a fantastic movie. So I watched it with the intention of nitpicking and being an asshole. So I have a whole list.
Did you find anything?
I have a whole list of things.
Nice.
But
we try not to nitpick too much on the Canon, but that's okay.
We try not to nitpick too much. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
What were you gonna say?
No, I was gonna say, am I gonna be the bad guy of this episode?
Why?
But I won't be.
Do you have a lot
I
of
won't
nitpicks?
be. I won't be.
We'll get to
but it's not necessary. It's not necessary.
We can get to nitpicks at the end after we speak.
There's a couple things in the movie that are like well-known critiques, like if you really read into the Marion Indy backstory, how like gross and how that it's like on a casual watch through, that's not something you think about or pick up. But when you read into that totally changes the context of the scene where he's teaching, and all the girls in the class, she has like the "love you" written on her eyes. Like that scene is totally different when you have that added context.
I do feel like one of those girls, though.
Oh yeah, 100%.
If I were in that class, I would write "love you" on my eyelids.
Yeah, I mean, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Indiana Jones, Harrison Ford is probably I don't know. It's definitely the top of my list of most attractive a dude has ever been.
Yeah.
What's number 2?
I got to go through the rankings again. But
it's an easy number 1.
I battle a lot with Hell or High Water. Chris Pine works its way up the rankings quite a ways.
Interesting. Hottest a dude's ever been.
Yeah, I think it's Indiana Jones, Harrison Ford. That's
easily. How cool is his? Huh?
Hugh Jackman in speaking of James Mangold doing Dial of Destiny, the Wolverine, not a great movie, but Hugh is absolutely torqued.
The one specific scene too, the fight.
Yes, yes, that's right.
Guys being dudes.
But yes,
talking about hot dudes.
Ford is a hunk in this. He's far hunkier in this than he is in Star Wars.
I fully agree.
Yeah, totally agree. I very much so agree. I was gonna say, I feel like his hunkiness, it just jumps out at you from the first moment that he's on screen. And
it's the best character introduction. The first 30 minutes of this movie are some of the best character and world building that I think I could point to. Like the whole lead up to the whip and him turning around and stepping into the light. It's perfect. It's badass. It's tells you everything you need to know about the character without saying like more than 2 lines of dialogue. It's very impressive.
Yeah, he says like nothing at all. It's also awesome how he steps out of the shadows. Like the first time we actually see his face, you just see like the silhouette of his hat, and then he steps out into the light, and you're like, oh my goodness. Yeah, Rock, what did you think of that opening sort of character intro as someone who's never seen Raiders of the Lost Ark before?
As someone who's never seen Raiders of the Lost Ark before, I couldn't believe that Alfred Molina was playing Spaniards.
Well, there's a lot of that's another critique of this movie. It's a well-known one too, that John Rhys Davies playing an Egyptian man is.
I was going to ask, is he supposed to be Egyptian, or is he just a white guy?
Yeah, I think canonically Sallah is definitely an Egyptian character, but
yeah.
Oh, I forgot his name was Sallah. Okay.
And ironically, that's one of the things I'm cringing the most about with Dial of Destiny, because he comes back in Dial of Destiny, and I was like, are we all just kind of agreeing that he's grandfather in? Like, what? How does this work?
It's cool. It's from the 80s. It's brown face from the 80s.
But yeah, Molina is also a top. He also sells that opening sequence so well. Like, Indy's like climbing up to the golden idol, and Molina's sitting in the background. Like, there's just some great takes from him.
But I couldn't. What was funny about that opening sequence was that, there's so many iconic moments. Like, when you're scrolling through Instagram, it's like, you see Indy rubbing his chin, and like, there's like a bag of Doritos there or whatever. And it's like, oh, okay, like this is where the meme comes from, or like the big boulder, or the snakes at the end or whatnot. So like, I couldn't believe how many iconic little moments from Indiana Jones are just in the first movie, kind of the first sequence as well, with the golden idol and the traps and the big boulder. But but I agree. I think that's much akin to, say, Jack Sparrow arriving at Port Royal, and how the characterization without any dialogue is so clear right off the rip, with him sailing a sinking ship, and proud of it too. So too is our first introduction to Indy, with his badassery and his whip and his wonderful pecs and biceps and lats. And what also was startling to me about the beginning of the film was knowing that it was rated PG. I could not, like, when Molina dies, I couldn't believe it, how like gruesome it was. I mean, like, obviously it's like, puppetry and like animatronics, but it was so disgusting. I was like, this is not for children.
I watched this at the age of like 5. We're responsible.
Yeah, this is a brutal movie. Sort of jumping ahead, I have in my notes that Indiana Jones shoots like 5 dudes in the head. Like, he's kind of a savage. Yeah. Not only is he a professor who goes off and hunts treasures, but he's killed many, many, many people. And then he just casually goes back to work on Monday.
That's kind of, I include that in the introduction to the character, because I absolutely love that we go from this crazy South American adventure in the temples. He's running from I forget the name of the tribe, but that Belloc sends after him. Yeah. He flies away in the biplane, big adventure. And then we cut directly to him lecturing. There's some weird vibes with the girls in his class that are worse upon review. But then he has the scene where the 2 guys from Army Intelligence come and they ask him about the Ark. And that's when you get to see Professor Jones. That's when, like, him teaching, he gets the blackboard and immediately is like lecturing and like teaching a class to these Army Intelligence guys. He's got the blackboard out, and like the one guy is like raising his hand, and like it's great fucking like, you get 2 very different sides to this character, and between those 2, by the time we get to Marcus Brody telling him coming over to his house and telling him, yeah, the government wants you to go after the Ark, and he's packing his bags and everything. At that point, we fully know this character. We know the good and bad. We know the ups and downs of him. Like, and not much time has passed without a ton of exposition or awful, background dialogue and everything. Like, they do such a great job of introducing the character, cutting right to the action adventure. That's the other thing. The other note I had: there are so many big iconic action beats in this movie, and like the juxtaposition of how little dialogue there is sometimes in the movie. We have a scene where there's just like people say 5 words to each other, and then it's just immediately it's a bananas action beat. But it works because they've built the characters and the world so well.
But before we get to some of those action sequences, which version of Indiana Jones do you guys find sexier? South America Treasure Hunt or In the Classroom?
South American Treasure Hunt. Although I'd also say Ripped Shirt Temple of Doom is probably the top of the we're getting down to it here.
Rocco?
There's a place in my heart for both. I think it depends on the kind of day you're having.
I'm partial to Professor Jones. I think he's real sexy. When he's teaching those two army guys, I was like squirming around on my couch.
I changed my answer to him in the bathrobe when Marcus Brody comes over to tell him to go after the Ark. That's
Does he have the perfect amount of scruff in this movie? Is that what
nobody
does it?
has ever had better scruff? I will say that I will die on that, no problem.
On screen or off screen, this is the best scruff.
100%.
Yeah. It's not too. Yeah, it looks clean, but it doesn't look manicured. It's amazing.
Effortless scruff.
Yeah. Lucky bastard. All right, let's talk about some of the action sequences. I feel like especially the second half of the movie, it's just like action beat after action beat after action beat. I guess the easy question is, what's the best one? What are your favorites? I think that's just the easiest route to go. Rocco, as someone who hasn't seen Indiana Jones before.
I liked the plane fight.
Yeah, I love the plane fight.
I think that, especially for a movie that is 42 years old, Jesus, it's like it was surprisingly intricate for a movie that came out in the 80s. But this is also true of the big car chase.
Neck and neck.
Yeah, but it's like they're very clearly both thought out. Like the pacing of the fight action sequences are very, very good. There's a lot happening in both of them, and I just I think just I don't know whose idea it was. It couldn't have been George Lucas's. To be like, we're gonna have a plane spinning around on a runway, and the whole fight is gonna take place on and around the plane. It's such a simple idea, but it's like so effective, especially 42 years ago. Oh, right. Yeah. I turned to Kelsey while as soon as the guy got knocked forward and the plane turned on, I turned to her. I was like, "Somebody's about to get hit by that propeller."
That is one of the most gruesome movie deaths I've ever seen. It gets me every time.
I couldn't believe it. I turned to her. I was like, "How?" I was like, "This is PG." That was a moment because like at the beginning, I was like, "Oh, they can get away with some stuff." I was like, "Oh, Star Wars, Is they cut the hand off or whatever."
The bar fight in Nepal, there's a couple guys who get like shot in the head. It's like,
right in the face.
Shoots a guy right in the dome piece, and like brain splatter everywhere while he's burning alive.
Which is one of my nitpicks. He's got a silver and he's just blasting that whole. He's fighting like 3 guys with machine guns with a 6-shooter and somehow holding his own. That's
indie. That's indie. That shootout is also wonderful. But Sean, what's your go-to action sequence in this
one. I wrote all of them down, actually. That's in my notes because I was trying to track how quickly you jump from one into the next. And, like, usually it's interspersed with, like, a little bit of dialogue or, just getting us from point A to point B. But every once in a while they mix in, like, archaeology and, like, treasure and puzzles in the middle. But I think of all of them, I'm very partial to the bar fight and I'm very partial to the truck chase. Those two are just fucking classic.
I think I'm team car chase.
Yeah.
And I think that's his best punch. When he punches when he gets back into the car and then
the guy's
punches the dude and then
a couple times.
And then throws him out front. Also, that stunt of Indy underneath the car and then he like goes to the back, and that stunt dude was like needs to be paid 5 times whatever he got.
That was the best stunt in the whole movie.
Another one of my gripes is that since I watched this at the tender age of 5, this movie gave me a completely unrealistic idea of how whips work. Automatic grappling hook.
Yeah.
That's how it's treated in this movie. But
that's true for people of most ages. I probably saw this for the first time when I was like 14, and I also was like, oh, that's how.
I have
that's
a
what you do
rope.
with the whip.
I can cross any gap.
Yeah. I feel like the whip doesn't actually get that much play in this one. I feel like it gets more play in Temple of Doom.
Yeah, that's probably true. No,
he uses a gun a lot.
Well, the classic story is that scene in which, in the Cairo market fight, where the crowd parts and there's the dude dressed all in black with the big sword and he flips it around and all that, and Indy just shoots him, which is classic, iconic for his character. It's like one of the most memorable parts of this movie. The whole reason they did it that way, they actually had a whole elaborate fight choreographed and all this shit, but I think Harrison Ford was like he had like some sort of stomach flu and was like, him sweating through all the clothes was actually just him being like deathly ill when they were filming the Cairo scenes. And
hot though.
They were like talking about like, how are we going to do it? And I think Harrison Ford said, what if I just fucking shoot him? They went
it's amazing.
Yeah, but classic.
That chase scene is also pretty good, but that it's not as good as some of the other ones.
One thing that chase scene, the whole Cairo scenes have that I think needs to be talked about is the Nazi monkey, because that is the funniest goddamn thing. The monkey does a Nazi salute, and it is played totally straight, and it is the funniest thing. Like, the monkey does a Nazi salute, and then the Nazis in suits are like, all right, I guess he's in. And like, wait.
I've never caught that.
I was so bewildered by that.
So insane. That monkey, upon rewatch, is one of the most insidious characters in the entire. He's a Nazi the whole time. He is a Nazi monkey. And then Marion dies, and Indy's sitting with the bottle of whiskey, and he's depressed. And the monkey is sitting there, like, pretending to cry. Like, amazing character, the Nazi monkey.
And the Nazi monkey eats the bad dates.
Yeah.
That's right.
This movie ruined dates for me for a while. Like I've never really enjoyed dates the way that I should, because I always assume that they're poisoned, and I don't want to end up like the Nazi monkey.
That guy with an eye patch is just going to creep into the room and pour a vial of very ambiguous liquid over the dates. And
yeah, I feel like he's done that to every bag of dates or bowl of dates that's ever existed in the world. It's a very irrational fear.
I don't think I like dates very much. Okay. So that guy wouldn't be able to kill me.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Nice. Dude, I did not catch that the monkey was just a Nazi spy.
The whole time. The monkey is infiltrating, because the monkey first shows up when they show up on Salah's roof, and Salah's wife is like driving around, and she's like, what is this animal? And like all the kids are playing with it. The monkey is infiltrating Salah's house as a Nazi to spy on Indiana Jones. And also it's kind of implied that all both the Egyptian henchmen and the Nazis understand the monkey somehow. They're all like running down an alleyway, and the monkey starts yelling at them for them to come back because Marion's in the basket, and then they all like as soon as the monkey starts yelling, they're all like, wait, let's hear.
We got to listen to the monkey. Monkey's got something to say.
That's right. The monkey gives up Marion, and the entire group of Nazi soldiers, even though they're like, they all stop. They hear the monkey, and they're like, whoa, hold on.
When they hear that monkey.
Monkey, did you say something? Monkey, what'd you say?
The monkey could have been like Hitler's second in command in the canon of this movie. Like, the way they deferred.
Yeah.
It was a smart monkey. The monkey has to be smart enough to understand that she's who they're
monkey has to be smart enough to pretend to be upset after Marion's death when he's hanging out with Harrison Ford.
Or to know to be like, to pretend to be charming when it's first infiltrating Saladin's
Nazi monkey
family.
is one of the great underrated characters of Raiders of the Lost Ark.
I would just say movie history, like any movie ever. More movies need Nazi monkeys.
This was a simpler time in film where everybody could get on board. They were like, okay, Nazi monkey, bad guy, cool, lock in.
Makes sense. If George Lucas directed this, there would be many scenes where the monkey is actually having full conversations with some of the other Nazis.
Disputing trade taxation in outlying.
Yeah.
With giant fish people. Yeah. Oh man, George Lucas, great idea guy, but he really needs someone else to just reel him in.
Yeah, I don't know what the formula is with him, because there's still gold in that brain, but you just never know what you're gonna get.
Yeah, you just need someone else to keep him in mind.
Speaking of the Cairo chase sequence, afterwards, Indy's upset. He's sitting there, and the two Nazis in suits come up and tell him somebody at the bar would like to see you. And he comes in, and it's Belloc sitting there, and Indy's upset after Marion's death. He's sitting there, and Belloc gives him the whole "we're not so different" speech. And I was thinking, is this the earliest use in a movie of the "you and I aren't so different" trope for the antagonist and the protagonist?
Maybe.
I'm sure there's an earlier one, but this has got to be one of the most iconic, like...
Yeah, like we're two sides of the same coin.
Right. It wouldn't take too much of a push for you to be just like me, is Belloc's whole...
Yeah, but they're really not that much alike, because Belloc cozies up with Nazis.
I found that scene very strange, because it's funny you bring that up, Sean, because I did think, I was like, when that scene happened, I was like, I wonder what other movies use this trope before that. But then, like you're saying, Raph, he says that, like there's a whole scene about that, and I was like, you two aren't alike at all.
I think it's kind of implied that Indy has done some sort of unsavory shit to, like, he does what he needs to do to get the artifact, and like he murders a lot of fucking guys. Now they happen to be Nazis, so like good on him for it.
Yeah. So,
but like he is not,
or friends of Nazis.
He's not this pristine, shiny. He's a gritty character with a dark streak, and so like you said, they're not all that much alike, because Belloc is, Nazi sympathizer, a French Nazi sympathizer. It's also a very funny, funny choice to have Belloc be French.
A French Nazi sympathizer who's really just a British guy. He's really just a fancy Brit. Right. It's great that he always says, like, he always mentions like being civilized. He's like, even in a place like this, we can still be civilized. It's just the most like heinously racist stuff.
Casual racism gets tossed around a little bit in this movie.
Rock, did you know that Belloc is the same dude who played Ivan Ooze in the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie?
I didn't know that, and that just blew my
mind. I do now. Now that's a movie I've seen.
As soon as you said that, I was like,
wow.
Sean, you didn't know that?
I probably heard that at some point, but it just blocked out of my memory. But
it's too bizarre to actually believe.
That's what happened to him after his head exploded. He came back
as Ivan Ooze. Two of the best movie villains of all time.
That's what happened when they opened up the Ark. They didn't get killed. They just got sucked into the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers universe.
They were all turned into ooze. And all the other Nazis, they're just those like big flying raven things that Ivan Ooze unleashes on the Power Rangers. All right. Speaking of Nazi sympathizers, I was having trouble with this. The Egyptians and what do you call someone from Nepal?
Nepalese.
Nepalese. The Egyptians and the Nepalese who Indy is fighting, were they all just also cozying up with the Nazis, or were they just?
Well, I think it's implied
people who also hated
in the
Indy.
canon of the Indiana Jones universe. I think all of this goes down prior to World War II. So
yeah, this takes place in 36.
While the Nazis, a lot of the world saw them as distasteful, they don't like the Nazis. You don't have the same visceral reaction to the word Nazi in that day and age. There were plenty of people walking around who were, they were like, well, maybe they're onto something over there because Germany's technological advancement, like,
you're absolutely right, but I'm laughing because
I'm going to clip that and take it out of context.
My stupid brain thought you meant in 1981 when the movie was made. That's when people were walking around.
People in the 80s.
More likely in 2023 that there are people walking around than in 1980.
Yeah, it's
81.
Real shame how we've gone full circle on that. But in the setting, like, a lot of people didn't like the Nazis, but they also were well financed, paid very well, so it was very easy for them to hire henchmen. And I think that's what you get in the Cairo fight scene. They're just like sort of hired guns, and same thing in the bar fight in Nepal.
It was Go ahead.
I was just going to say my one nitpick about this movie is the fact that the American army knew to not let the Nazis get the Ark of the Covenant, but also decided to wait so long to get involved in the war. Like, they knew in 36 that they were bad enough news that like they shouldn't get the Ark of the Covenant. And then they're like, we can't let him get that. And they're like, well, he's waging war against all of Europe and he's like genociding an entire group of people. Well, let's wait it out. We knew he was bad.
I went on Letterboxd after I finished watching it, and I saw your review, and it's a one-line review with that critique.
It's the one thing that stands out to me. It's
something
weird.
that stood out to me on this rewatch that really, it's going to irk me. I know it's stupid. This is the most inconsequential thing in the world, but there's the whole plot point where the Nazis go to the map room at Tanis first, and they are able to recreate the headpiece to the Staff of Ra because it's burned into the one Nazi's hand. They have the markings, they recreate the headpiece, they go, and then Indy and Sala take the headpiece to the old guy, and he reads the inscription, and it says, I forget what the unit of measure is, but it's the staff is supposed to be 2, whatever the unit is, long. And then he flips it, and he says, but take back 1 of these things to honor the Hebrew god whose ark this is. And when he says 2 of these things long, Indy says that's about 72 inches. Now, if you take back 1 of those 2 units of measure, that's like a 30-inch long staff. It's like waist high. The staff Indy's holding. Harrison Ford is 6'1", and the staff is taller than he is. It's taller than 72 inches to begin with. So
they didn't think of Lawrence Kasdan.
They weren't expecting me to be sitting there watching this like 40 years later. Like, hold on a second, this math.
The math doesn't check out.
But yeah, I noticed that, and that was very annoying.
Takes away from the movie.
Really does.
Yeah.
My other nitpick was it's never fully. They get on the boat after the truck. The Ark is loaded onto the boat. Captain Katenga, I think his name is, and German U-boat comes up. They take Marion. They take the Ark back, and there's that big musical beat where it's like he's there, da 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 da, and he's like climbing onto the U-boat. Indy salutes the pirates.
I know what you're going to say.
Did they not
Why did it travel all that distance and it didn't go under? once. I said that out loud while I was watching it. They literally, there's an overlay of a map on the screen to chart their journey, and it's like thousands of miles. You're
and
in
it
a
cuts
sub.
to the Nazi submarine base on the island, and Harrison Ford's like all wet, and I'm not sure if it's supposed to be sweat or if it's implied that he was just like hanging on to the I don't think that's certainly not an original critique. People have said that about Raiders before, but it is always very funny. And then you get that nice cut of him. The Nazi guard is like reprimanding him for his appearance because he was trying to put on the jacket that's too small for him, and he's like combing his hair before kicking the shit out of the guy and taking his hat.
Kick him in the nuts. He kicks a lot of Nazis in the nuts.
The balance
He
between
does.
action and comedy in this movie is unbelievable. It's done like so every fight scene you're like on the edge of your seat, and then they'll throw in just like a play to the camera, like just for laughs type of thing.
I audibly laughed out loud when the bar fight was happening and the keg of whiskey got blown up and it was shooting some whiskey out. And Marion just like opens her mouth to get a big glug of whiskey before she runs behind the bar. I was like, yeah, I do the same, Marion.
Indy just clocks the dude with a bottle of Johnny Black.
Yeah.
It is amazing that bottle hasn't changed at all in all these years.
At all. It's great. They have Johnny Black in Nepal.
Of course. Rock, I feel like you were going to say something before, and I cut you off with my nitpick about the U.S. government.
What were we talking about prior to that?
It was a lot of Nazi talk. Thoughts on Nazis?
Yeah, well, I'm sure I had something to say.
I have a critique that I came around on, and I actually think works. I talked myself into it.
Let's hear it.
For the longest time, ever since I was a kid, it's always kind of bothered me what fucking accent Marion has, because there's certain lines she delivers that have an accent, and it's like, what was that supposed to be? And others, it's just like totally normal. She's American, and I was like, I don't understand what she's going for here. But I talked myself into it because in the canon, Abner Ravenwood was obsessed with the city of Tanis. He was going all over the world collecting Tanis artifacts. And so since the age of 15, Marion has been traveling around the world to Nepal, to Egypt, to Europe. So it does kind of make sense that her accent would be a fucking catastrophe by the events of Raiders. So I talked myself into that one, but I do think it's just like the actress had some weird line reads in the movie.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny you bring that up because this is something I was going to ask that maybe you two know more about the trivia of this film than I do. Was she ad-libbing in a lot of her scenes? Because it sort of seemed to me like she was.
Why do you say this?
There was a certain how do I explain it? There was a very frantic, sort of unfocused nature to the dialogue that was coming out of her mouth compared to the dialogue of the other characters. And it felt like to me this was an actress who was told by the director and the writer, something's happening here. Respond to it like this. There was like a scene where Indy decides, he says to her, "I can't help you escape right now because then we'll know we're here and they'll be on us or whatever." And he puts the gag back in her mouth, and as he's leaving, she just keeps screaming, "Indiana, Indiana Jones," and the scene ends with her screaming, "Indiana, what's the matter?" And I was like, that's really weird. Really weird thing.
Yeah, it gets lost in the fact that she has the like rag in her mouth. Like you don't fully hear it, but if you're listening to what she's saying, it's like that makes no sense.
Yeah, it made no sense.
What's the matter?
Like, Indiana, what's the matter? It's like, what? He just explained to you that
Dark. He'll be back.
What's the matter for you?
Yeah. So I don't know. I noticed that. See that those are the things that stand out to me. The units of measurement you catch. When somebody says something, I'm like, human beings don't talk like that.
Calculations. I was like, I don't think so.
And I'm worried about the historical accuracies about the U.S. government.
Right. The Nazi monkey is more believable to me than Marion saying Indiana wasn't that.
Nazi monkeys were a thing. They were fully a thing. You can read that in any history book. That's a fact.
Even history books that aren't about Nazis.
Yeah.
A foreword.
Yeah.
By the way, Nazi monkeys,
They were a thing.
totally a thing.
They existed.
Yeah. Are Nazis the easiest movie villain?
They definitely used to be. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
like it was such easy. It was like, who are the bad guys? It's the Nazis. Everybody was like, perfect. Everybody hates them.
Yeah.
Nobody's gonna say, how the fuck did we come full circle? People.
Yeah. Everybody knows that they're bad, and we already beat them, so we know that we're not going to lose. Like, you're never going to watch a movie about Nazis where the Nazis
somehow
win.
Unless you watch Man in the High Castle or whatever that
that TV show.
But it's amazing to me that somebody, like, there's people in this country who watch Raiders of the Lost Ark and are just like like, oh, that evil Indiana Jones kicking the ass of you good old boys, the Nazis.
I didn't realize until this viewing how poetic it is that all of these Nazis are getting absolutely yeeted at the end by ghosts of like
Hebrew God.
Jewish ancestors. Yeah. It's pretty wonderful. It's kind of like Inglourious Bastards before Inglourious Bastards. Like this great Jewish revenge.
And what a
making their heads explode and melt.
Violent. The guy, the Nazi, I forget what his rank is, but the guy in the black hat,
Arnold,
whose face melts.
Yeah,
he's such a. I haven't looked him up to see what else he's been in, but I can't imagine him playing any other character because he is so iconic.
Yeah, just a despicable Nazi. Yeah,
so iconic as the terrifying Nazi torture guy.
He's freaking horrifying. And then when he comes back after you think he died in the fire.
Yeah. I like when he walks into the tent and he's like pulling this like horrible looking thing out of his bag. It's just a hanger.
He is an iconic midline chuckler. Like all his like what we talk about. It's just a brilliant performance by that guy. Credit to him. Unless he's an actual Nazi, then fuck off.
Kudos to him. I feel like we didn't
Spielberg
talk about
and casting.
What? Huh?
I was going to say, is this you saying, unless he's an actual Nazi, is this Spielberg in the casting office is like, we need someone really believable. Who do you got?
Bring me the worst people imaginable.
Belloc, Raph. You're talking about Belloc.
Yeah, I was talking about Belloc. I feel like we didn't give him enough love. I feel like he's a wonderfully awful antagonist.
He's tremendous. And he is the perfect... He does his whole speech, the "we're not so different, I'm a dark reflection of you" to Indiana Jones. But they even do it down to the costume. Indiana Jones has... His classic look is the rugged brown leather jacket, the hat, the scruff, whereas Belloc is a lot more manicured. He has like sort of the linen suits and a fedora at all times, and it is sort of like the perfect mirror image of Indy.
Yeah,
it works very well. He has some great line deliveries as well in this movie.
I was expecting. I wasn't expecting his not to jump to the end of the film, but I wasn't expecting his what happens to him to be the same as the rest of the Nazi crew. I thought one of two things were going to happen, neither of which did. I thought that the Nazis were going to eliminate him, or I thought that he was going to, at some point, recognize who he was, working with and try to do one last good deed before he died. So it was actually, yeah, right. So that was actually kind of refreshing to be like, oh, he's just a bad guy.
Just a scumbag.
Yeah.
One of the things I think that plays really well in this movie is from both Harrison Ford and Belloc is both of their reverence for archaeology. They really play that up. Like when Harrison Ford is talking about the pieces, and like when he's telling Marcus Brody about the pieces, when he's dealing with the golden idol and all the and like the art, he really treats it with like. That's the one time we see Indiana Jones like he poo-poos Marcus Brody and Sala saying, you know, this is the Ark of the Covenant. This is like nothing. There's power. There's mystery behind this. And he's like, I don't believe in superstition and any of that shit. But then in all of the scenes where he's doing archaeology and finding these priceless treasures, that sense of wonder and awe really plays through. And Belloc has it for a moment as well in the scene in the bar where he's saying like, Jones, don't you realize what the Ark is? It's a radio for talking to God, and their motivations are different, but the awe and reverence they have for archaeology, I think, works. It helps really sell the stakes of the movie.
Well, you can say, and then it's reflected as well in the in Belloc calling his bluff with the RPG. It was so funny. I was really expecting him to fire that off just at the group of Nazis.
A small detail in that scene that I absolutely love is that the round glasses, black trench coat Nazi, whose name I don't know, all the guys are like pointing their machine guns. Everybody's like backing up. They're scared. He's got the RPG. And that guy, if you watch, he just goes and sits down on a rock and just doesn't pay anything that's happening. He's just like, here we go again. Fucking. I love that.
That guy is ridiculous. I would love a spin-off movie of just that guy and the Nazi monkey just bopping around.
If Indiana Jones had been made today, what spin-offs from Raiders would we have gotten?
Well, that one that I just mentioned.
There would be a Disney Plus show about Sala.
I think we would also get a Captain Katanga.
Yeah, Captain Katanga.
But it would be a cartoon show directed by Filoni.
Yeah, animated. What if Captain Katanga?
You get a prequel with Abner Ravenwood.
Yeah. What if Indiana Jones was Adolf Hitler?
What if the Ark makes it back to Berlin and Indiana Jones goes face to face with Hitler? You would get an entire series of movies about Short Round doing God knows what. There were some awful things on the internet last year when Kei Kwan was having his comeback after Everything Everywhere, and people were like, finally, now we can get a Indiana Jones spinoff movie about grown-up Short Round. It's like, don't you guys understand that this is like the reason why he left acting?
We don't need to.
No.
Oh my god.
Hey, dude, remember this really traumatic experience? Why don't you make another movie about it?
I'm curious if he's going to show up as a cameo in Dial of Destiny. That would.
I doubt it.
If he was offered it, I hope he would say no.
Because it was. I think it was filmed
Harrison
before
Ford too. And if Harrison Ford was like, "Yeah, come on," movie, like,
but I think it was all filmed before he had his big run last year. Like,
talk about a comeback, man. He comes back. He just wins a fucking Oscar.
Must be nice, huh?
That's insane.
When do we get?
He was great in that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have to be somewhere first in order to come back.
We're coming back from nothing.
Yeah.
We're coming back from nowhere. Do you have any other thoughts as a first-time viewer? I still can't believe this. We can't stress this enough.
Yeah, I was going to ask: is this for Indiana Jones fans, Raiders of the Lost Ark is considered the best Jones film? Is that?
Yeah, I've met people
right?
who have argued for all three of the originals. I could see an argument for any of them. And
yeah, personally, I'm a Last Crusade guy, but I love Raiders.
Last Crusade. Last Crusade has times where it gets a lot sillier than Raiders. I think they really upped the comedy in that one, while still having, tremendous action beats and all that. But the play between Sean Connery and Harrison Ford is tremendous. Really, really tremendous. And they were only like 10 years apart in age.
Yeah, Sean Connery was like 42 in that movie.
They also really,
he looks like a 6-year-old.
They also really
man.
change Marcus Brody's character for that movie and make him, like in this movie, Marcus Brody is just like a guy that Indy sells his relics to, and in that one he's like a bumbling idiot and
yeah. One of the best cuts of all time.
Yeah. That is, he knows every local custom. Fluent in 12 languages.
I've never been that high on Temple of Doom though.
Yeah, Temple of Doom. It's definitely, for me, that's my least favorite of the original three. I still very much like it, but it's.
Does it suffer from trilogy-itis?
No, because Temple of Doom was the second one, and Temple of Doom is technically a prequel to Raiders of the Lost Ark.
And there are no Nazis, which I feel like is the biggest down point.
Right.
For
it's set in India, right?
Yeah. No one wants to see Indiana Jones, beating up a bunch of Indian guys.
No matter how bad they may be. But then they really get back to their Last Crusade, and now a lot more Nazis, a lot more Nazis getting their asses kicked. A lot of fun. Indiana Jones.
That's where.
Who are the antagonists in Temple of Doom?
No,
Nazi Indians?
No, just Indians. Well, they're like not just Indians. They're like a cult.
just Indians.
Your friend Raj.
They remove people's beating hearts from their chests, and they don't die. They lower them into lava, and the heart lights on fire. It's a whole thing. But
yeah, they eat monkey brains and stuff.
Oh, that's Kali Ma.
Exactly. That's where.
So, Rock, you were talking a lot about how crazy it is that this movie is PG. Apparently, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom is when we first got the PG-13 rating, because that movie does kind of up the gruesome levels with the beating heart and stuff. And yeah, finally Hollywood was like, okay, we need something in between PG and R, because we can't have kids going to see. Was
it really one of the first movies rated PG-13?
I think it's like the reason why we have PG-13.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. Like Indiana, or I keep calling it Indiana Jones, but Raiders of the Lost Ark should be PG-13.
Oh yeah, that's right. It's like the Star Wars thing. Like they made this first movie and it was just called Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
And then it became a series, and then they like tacked on Indiana Jones to the front of it. I will say, having watched it, I do want to watch Temple of Doom and Last Crusade now.
You should.
I will.
Should we do a watch later?
I think. Oh hell yeah, Disney Plus group watch.
Oh shit.
Let's do it. I was gonna say, in order to get you off this podcast and in a position where you can watch the movies, I think we can start winding things down, unless you guys have any other notes or thoughts on the movie before we get into our recommendations.
No, I think
I just want to say, as someone who's never seen it, watched it and experienced it from beginning to end for the first time, it's a little insincere to say I've never seen it. I've seen some parts of it over 31 years, but I've never watched the movie. So watching it from beginning to end in the year 2023, nitpicks aside, I did enjoy it. I thought it was a lot of fun. I think that movies like, The Mummy and National Treasure wouldn't exist if this movie was never made, and really anything in that realm. And I think it's a lot of fun. I think knowing that this was made in the early 80s, the set pieces, and just in general action, I just think it's a really solid flick, knowing what they had to work with at the time. So if a movie is 42 years old and it's still entertaining, I think that's quite a testament to its quality. So I think it's a really solid flick.
Nice. Nate, what did you think?
There's thunder here. He's a little afraid of the rain. So.
Oh no.
Somebody over New York with the
Poor
Covenant.
Nate dog.
He's not happy about it.
Yeah. If you told me that I had a bingo card, I would not put Ghost of Ancient Jewish People as the Deus Ex Machina for the end of this.
We didn't talk about how Indiana Jones knows to close your eyes.
Yeah,
Well,
that was interesting.
Is he afraid of
no, I
ghosts?
think it comes with his knowledge of like religion and archaeology, and that you're supposed to avert your eyes in the presence of the Almighty and the Holy. Like, I think he just
Yeah.
gets the sense he's like, don't look, whatever's coming out of there, it can't be good. Look,
Yeah.
like that's the big separation between Belloc and Indy, is that Indy understands the mythos behind some of these artifacts, and Belloc is kind of blinded by his own greed and ambition. So, one of the common critiques of this movie is that had Indiana Jones not been in, let's say Indy doesn't get sent after the Ark, it still ends up in the exact same.
Oh, I know where you're
They
going.
would still have taken the Ark directly to that place, opened it, all been murdered, and the Ark would have just been sitting there. So, like, really, he doesn't impact the overall trajectory of the Ark that much until they all die, and he just takes it and gives it to the Army Intelligence.
He kind of messed up.
I was actually.
He should have sent it to Berlin for the Fuhrer to open it.
I was thinking that too. I actually quite liked that. Like, my expectations were subverted quite a bit in that, like, the finale of the film is not like him kicking their ass. It's them being undone by their own, like you're saying, ambition and hubris, and he's just a bystander for it. So I thought that was a nice little.
I agree. I respond to
change
that
of
critique
pace.
with "fuck you." Indy is our like eyes into the story. He's the one we're on the adventure with, and it doesn't matter that he doesn't necessarily influence the trajectory of. We learn early on that this dude is just famous for finding things and then immediately having them get jacked from him. So, it's sort of his deal.
So, Rocco, I'm assuming you didn't watch the tweet that I sent about the Disney Plus alternate ending of Raiders of the Lost Ark.
I've been. I haven't checked our We Hate Movies chat.
Sean, I think you
today,
saw it. Someone did a cut of the final shot, and instead of the Ark ending up in some warehouse, it ends up at Mar-a-Lago in Trump's bathroom.
Top men.
I love it. He says top men, and then it's just some old guy
just nailing it.
Yeah. I want to make sure that I'm not crazy. The implications of that ending are that it's being added to a bunch of other who knows how many things the government has
crazy
found,
artifacts and occult things.
Right.
Aliens.
I assumed that it was that. Right. I figured it was either, oh wow, look at how much other crazy shit they found, or it's like they're just adding it to a bunch of nothing stuff, so it's never found. But I assumed it was the.
And it also, you probably missed this in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, but there's a whole chase scene in that warehouse where they allude to like a box gets smashed and you see the corner of the Ark in Crystal Skull.
Ooh.
Yes, I definitely
it
missed.
Stinks. It stinks.
Damn. Wonderful stuff. My dudes, this has been a lovely conversation. I'm pleasantly surprised that we got someone who's never seen Raiders of the Lost Ark. I still can't believe that, Rocco, you as a movie fan, as a Harrison Ford fan, I assume a Spielberg fan, just like a person who has lived on this earth for a certain number of years, you've never seen this movie, but I'm happy that this got you to see it. But this has been a very fun conversation.
Yes, I've enjoyed this immensely, and thanks to your suggestion to have us on, I am now an Indiana Jones guy.
Hell yeah, who isn't? I mean, he's so hot.
Really fucking hot.
Yeah,
so hot. All right, let's get into our recommendations. You guys both have 3. You know the rules. We'll go round robin. We'll go one at a time. Just give like a brief sort of reasoning for why you're recommending it, and then I guess we'll start with Sean, aka 3 Cats. We haven't used your alter ego name at all this episode.
Too much
I just
exposition.
realized.
We don't need to.
If you're in on if you know the joke, you know the joke. If not, we'll catch you up the next time. So yeah, we'll go three cats and then Stone
Sure.
and then me. And
Yes.
we'll just go around the
snake
horn.
draft, or is it gonna go back around to me?
We're gonna go back around.
I just
No snake draft.
Clear about the rules. Well, my first one, this is a movie I think I've probably made both of you guys watch at some point if you hadn't seen it already. Not a lot of people have seen it. I adore this movie, and it is Arsenic and Old Lace. I believe directed by Frank Capra and starring Cary Grant, and it is a wonderful dark comedy set in Brooklyn, pre-World War II. Fantastic movie. Arsenic and Old Lace. If you haven't seen it, Raph, look it up tonight. It is so goddamn funny. It is.
I've never seen it.
What's
the connection to Raiders? Just pre-World War II.
Oh, are these supposed to be locked into? Are these tied into Raiders?
There should be some sort of connection, but we'll go with pre-World War II.
Oh shit.
Honestly, that's on me. I should have been.
It does take place in the exact same time period as Raiders.
Perfect, absolutely wonderful. Stone, what do you got? That's totally on me. I didn't tell you guys that it was supposed to be connected to the movie.
That's okay. The connection that my recommendation has is that it takes place post World War II. It is a film that we have talked about, Raph, in the past. I don't know if it is on the essential list, but I don't think it is. It is Children of Men. Is it on the list? Am I being boo-booed?
No,
Excellent.
It should be on the list.
It should be. I had a conversation about this film a couple of weeks ago, and it just reaffirmed how fantastic I think it is. I genuinely think it is. I'm not going to say it's the best film I've ever seen, because that's a lot of film history to say fuck you to. But I think it is, in terms of the 21st century, I think it's the best film I've ever seen. I think that there are so many elements to it that just scream like, look at this and pay attention to what this is attempting to communicate. But quite simply, I always boil it down to is like, are you interested in seeing a movie about what humanity devolves into with the knowledge that it's going extinct? That's it. I think the movie's awesome. It's got some of the best one-shots I've ever seen. It's a blast.
Amazing. Trying to think of a way to tie it to Indiana Jones. It's about a guy who goes on he ventures out in a way.
Yeah. It has a script.
It has scenes, right?
There are credits at the end of the film.
I think Clive has pretty good scruff in that movie.
Yeah.
There we go.
Both our protagonists have facial hair, but not big facial hair.
Good scruff.
Facial hair.
Good scruff.
Good scruff. Yes.
Nice. Oh man, I can't believe I totally forgot to
dude,
because I'm not changing my picks.
Easy connection. It's about fighting against fascist oppression.
Nice. Wonderful.
Yeah.
I love it.
There you go.
All right, my first pick is another treasure hunt movie. I think Sean mentioned it when talking about, or no, Rock, I think you mentioned it, talking about movies that wouldn't exist without Indiana Jones.
Oh, yes.
I am, of course, talking about National Treasure 2, The Book of Secrets, the best National Treasure movie.
Bruce Greenwood.
Nick Cage is doing a bad Harrison Ford impression while looking for wild things. Not enough supernatural for me, but still a great treasure hunt nonetheless.
Bruce Greenwood is the president, and he's on my Mount Rushmore of fictional presidents.
Who else is on the Mount Rushmore?
Harrison Ford, of course, from Air Force One.
Let's see. Bruce Greenwood in National Treasure 2. I haven't done this in a while, so I have to think back.
Pullman in Independence Day.
President Whitmore, obviously. I think at one point I'm blanking on the actor's name, but he was the Allstate guy. Are you in good for a while?
Oh, in 24, he was the president.
I knew you were going to go with the Allstate guy from 24.
I mean, he's a classic.
Yeah. Everybody knows who he is.
The Allstate guy, President Allstate.
Iconic voice. But yeah, no, I've thought long and hard about the Mount Rushmore of female presidents.
That's a great list. What's your second recommendation that is totally fully connected to Raiders of the Lost Ark?
So my second is a movie called Harvey, starring Jimmy Stewart, which I know I've made Rock watch. Another old.
It's very good.
Actually has one of the same actresses from Arsenic and Old Lace, so there's already a connection there. Jimmy Stewart plays the wealthy and eccentric brother in this family, and his sister and family are trying to commit him to a sanatorium because they're very embarrassed that his best friend is an invisible 6-foot-tall bunny rabbit named Harvey, and hijinks ensue.
So it's like Donnie Darko,
but way funnier and better, and it's not like Donnie Darko at all.
It's definitely ahead of its time.
The connection to Indiana Jones being Jimmy Stewart actually fought the Nazis in World War II.
Nice.
He was
he threw real punches against Nazis.
He flew a bunch of combat missions. Jimmy Stewart was a fascinating person. But he flew a bunch of combat missions in World War II, kicked some Nazi ass. There you go.
Nice.
Good second pick.
Believe it or not, my second recommendation actually was easy to pivot to something very related. It is a video game series. I know Sean is familiar with it. It is called Uncharted. It is directly inspired by the Indiana Jones films. It was created by the Sony studio Naughty Dog, who also created The Last of Us. Particularly, my recommendation would be the fourth game, Uncharted 4: A Thief's End. It's all about this treasure hunter named Nathan Drake, and he basically is Indiana Jones in all but name. He's found the lost city. He's found Shangri-La. Famous pirate treasure, all that shit. It's a great game series. It's like, do you want to be Indiana Jones?
Set modern you don't get to fight Nazis,
no.
But I think
you don't.
Do you fight Indian guys?
It was modern day in like the 2010s. So if they make another one now, you might actually get a chance to fight Nazis.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Anyways, that's my second pick.
Nice. Uncharted 4. I'm trying to think. I had the S Rank boys were on a previous episode, and they recommended a bunch of video games, but I don't think Uncharted was there. But I do think The Last of Us Part 2 was one of SJR's recommendations, of course.
Yes, that was going to be if it didn't have to connect to Indiana Jones, it would have been Last of Us Part 2.
I think I also failed to tell them that their picks were supposed to be connected to the movie of choice. So they were also just like going with whatever. So it seems like this is really a Raph problem that I need to fix.
You set us very specific rules. You just left out important.
And that I left out like the main rule. Whoops. All right. So for my second pick, I think I'm going to go with I have a bunch that I'm going to choose from. I'm just sort of playing it live. I'm going to go with another movie about guys being dudes and just digging. Who doesn't love a good digging movie? There's a lot of digging here. You got Salah and the Egyptians and Nazis digging around. Also, another weird Indiana Jones connection. Also a Shia LaBeouf movie. We're going with Holes, the best digging movie ever made.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a great connection to Indy. His son Mutt.
Yeah. His son Mutt digging holes with Mr. Sir. I do love that movie.
Mr. Sir.
Yeah. Also about fashion suppression.
That's true.
Yeah. Holes, number 2. Sean, what's your third?
So, as I mentioned, I'm not changing any of my picks. I'm just coming in here live, and I'm going to work the connection as we go. So, one of the great things about Indiana Jones, and I mentioned the intro we get to this character is amazing because you get this gritty, dark treasure hunter, adventure seeker. He's in the jungles of South America. He's fighting his way through these traps. He's running and he's hopping on the airplane adventure. And then we smash cut. We get this completely other side of him that you wouldn't have expected based off the first, where he's a professor and he's teaching class, he's teaching archaeology. And I think the lesson to take away here is that unexpected pairings can be enriching and can make things better. And so my recommendation number 3 is pairing red wine with sour candy, such as a Sour Power sour belt. I prefer a Malbec.
What kind of red wine?
It's up to you. Some people prefer a Pinot Noir. I'm a Malbec man myself, but I take the green and red Sour Power belts. I'll have a glass of red wine and have myself a night.
That's amazing. That might be the best recommendation we've ever had.
You should continue to spring it on people that they're supposed to be connected live and see I'm back into.
Yeah, I like how you work that. I also like that even if it's not supposed to be connected, that you pick 2 like old movies and then that. You're like, I gotta work this in somehow.
I assume none of those things were in the canon prior, so
yeah. That red wine and sour candy is certainly not anywhere in the canon. At least not yet. That's amazing. Rocco, do you have any way to top that?
No, I don't. Although you did spring into my mind a drink that could easily be tied to it, being that Marion slams it, or Indy, I guess rather, slams it over the head of. Oh no, it is Marion that slams it over the head of one of the Nazis. Good old. She hands it to Indy. And he slams it. Good old Johnny Walker, man. A nice glass of Johnny Walker. Blue, of course. I mean, I don't drink blue often. It's far too expensive. But I believe it's a bottle of black that is in the movie. Yeah. As long as it's not red, you're gonna enjoy it.
What's the ranking again?
If it's you got red, which is you shouldn't drink that. That's for mixed drinks. It's to mix with. Then you have black. You can have that by itself or with like a little bit of water.
Mm-hmm.
Then I believe you have gold.
Mm-hmm.
Green and gold actually are discontinued, and those two were above black. Then there's platinum.
Oh.
And then there's blue, which is like $300 a bottle.
Is it what? I thought there was a double black.
There is a double black, which I think is like around the same price as black. I actually don't really know the difference, nor can I taste the difference.
So you're a blue guy. You're recommending blue specifically.
I'm recommending blue, but I don't drink it very
get
often.
the blue. If not, you're fine with black.
Yeah.
And you don't have to drink any of the other ones in between. Like if you're going to drink gold, you may as well get blue.
Yeah, I mean you can. Like a bottle of gold or green is probably like $150. Black is like $50. Blue is like $300.
All right, my third recommendation is going to be, I don't know if I want to go with a Harrison Ford movie or another Spielberg movie. I think I'm going to go Harrison Ford because there will be other options for Spielberg Rex. I'm not like a big Harrison Ford guy, even though he's in a bunch of great movies like Han Solo is wonderful, Indiana Jones is wonderful. But besides that, like Harrison Ford doesn't really do it for me, except in The Fugitive. Absolutely wonderful film. Haven't seen it in years. He's not nearly as sexy. He is a little bit older, so it's kind of like more of a zaddy vibe than Indiana Jones, but still very handsome, still great Harrison Ford, and absolutely amazing Tommy Lee Jones. So,
speaking of The Fugitive, I saw there was that Twitter prompt. I forget who tweeted this. I would give credit if I knew, but it was like, search your Twitter account for the word fuck and post the most recent tweet you have using that word. And it was the picture from The Fugitive of Harrison Ford holding the gun on Tommy Lee Jones. And they edited it. So instead of saying, I didn't kill my wife, it just said, I didn't fuck my wife.
So
Very
dumb.
dumb.
It's so funny.
It's going to be hard to do that when I watch that movie now.
I didn't fuck my wife. Oh man. All right. Before we wrap it up, we'll do one more quick spin through the recommendations. So anyone listening who didn't get a chance to write it down the first time can write it down this time. And we'll just go same order. So 3 Cats, hit it. Just
Arsenic
boom,
and
boom,
Old
boom.
Lace. I'm doing all three of mine.
Yeah,
Arsenic
yeah.
and Old Lace. Harvey pairing red wine with sour candy. Can't go wrong.
Very nice. Children of Men, Uncharted 4, Johnny Walker Blue.
That's a great night. I've got National Treasure 2, Book of Secrets, Holes, and The Fugitive. 3 movies. Dudes, this was rad. Thank you guys for joining. This has been a lot of fun. I've not giggled on an episode this much.
It's always a terrible idea to have all three of us on the.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
No, it's podcast magic. We we definitely veered off at times. We didn't circle back on some of our more ridiculous jokes, which is probably a good thing.
Definitely.
Yeah, fate of the list.
I haven't talked about Nazis this much in a long time.
Yeah, they're not good.
That's the big takeaway of today's episode.
No. Yeah. I let it. Yeah. Anybody listening, don't get anything misconstrued.
Yeah, one of my biggest hot takes is that I don't like Nazis at all. I think they're very bad.
Yeah.
So I think that's
true.
If you guys, do you guys have any?
That's a heater.
Spice.
Any final words? Final words of wisdom or hot takes regarding Nazis to leave our lovely listeners with?
Don't be.
Yeah, I was gonna say fuck them, but I don't mean that literally. I mean they can go to hell.